Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Wednesday, March 31st, 2021. Today I have a couple things for you and things that I've obviously been looking into because this is my life, this is what I do, and things that I believe are very important at this point in time as we move further and further into this new world order. Also, for those who don't know, I am on my schedule now that I made, and I will be making videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Obviously, things happen. I might make one some Tuesdays. I might make one some Saturdays. Depending on things that happen, obviously, if like a major story breaks, then I will come on and obviously report on that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in here. This first one that I have is from Politico. And we all love Politico, don't we? One of the arms tabloids of the mainstream media. That's what it is mainstream media. There's no two ways about it. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, looking at tracking travel of domestic extremists. Okay. Wait till you hear some of the wording in here. Law enforcement sources say that Homeland Security is investigating, monitoring movements of U.S. extremists and white supremacists. Previous efforts by the Department of Homeland Security to combat domestic terror have generated volcanic political opposition. And this was March 23rd, 2021, that this was written. The Department of Homeland Security is considering monitoring the travel of domestic extremists and expanding its use of the no-fly list, law enforcement sources told Politico. The discussions are part of the Biden administration's strategy of treating domestic terror as a national security threat and not just a law enforcement problem. They're also part of a broader conversation in government about how to use tools developed for the global war on terror to combat domestic extremism. And if past is prologue, the approach could prove politically contentious. Wait a second. They're also part of broader conversations in government about how to use tools developed for the global war on terror to combat domestic extremism. So you know all those laws and all those nice little toys that they got that we cheered on when we thought they were only being used in the Middle East? Well, guess what? The chickens are coming home to roost just like we said they would. Exactly like we said they would. So they're going to be using drones. They're going to be using all this AI and all this tracking capabilities and whatnot. And I seen that they were going to use drones also to help rescue people lost in the woods. That's a load of bull malarkey. So far you can already see they're using everything that we thought was only going to be for people in the Middle East here. And they say the approach could prove politically contentious. Yeah, of course. Because you're openly stifling freedom. Moving on. The department could begin analyzing the travel patterns of suspected, keyword, suspected domestic extremists. Monitor flights they book on short notice and search their luggage for weapons, a senior law enforcement official told Politico. There have also been discussions about putting suspected domestic violent extremists, category that includes white supremacists, on the FBI's no-fly list, the official said. Oh, by the way, these, quote, white supremacists, they changed the definition of that to include anybody that goes against the agenda. So you're not only a domestic extremist, if you're a white person, you're also a white supremacist, because they're going to sell it to the population like that. Oh, this guy was a white supremacist, QAnon tinfoil hat wearing, and that's exactly how it's going to work. And that's exactly why QAnon, the operation for that, was even launched in the first place. QAnon just disappeared off the face of the earth. Why? Why did nothing ever come out of it? And the whole time we were telling those people, don't get involved in that. It is a psychological operation. Obviously, it was so obvious. And it was designed to discredit the truth community, one, and to lump everybody in the same group. So it doesn't matter what you identify yourself as or not, they're just going to slap that label on you if you say anything. When suspected extremists travel, and they keep using that word suspected, because you don't even have to commit a crime and go to court and be convicted of being an extremist. No, you're suspected. You ever heard of pre-crime? You ever watch Minority Report? It's where we are. Officials may be more likely to question them before they pass through customs and search their phones and laptops. A second law enforcement official told Politico that conversations about monitoring domestic extremists travel have involved multiple federal agencies at the interagency level, including the FBI. Quote, domestic violent extremism poses the most lethal, persistent terrorism-related threat to our homeland today, a DHS spokesperson said in response to a request for comment. DHS is committed to improving security and is reviewing options for enhancing screening and vetting protocols and travel pattern analysis consistent with privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. Give me a break. This whole thing is an oxymoron. None of this is consistent with privacy, because they spy on us every day, NSA, or civil rights, or civil liberties. Not consistent at all whatsoever. Oh, and of course, the FBI declined the comment. I wonder why. Officials at DHS are interested in international travel connected to the kind of ideologically motivated terrorism that inspired the Capitol insurrection, the official added. It may increase this focus. An unclassified U.S. intelligence assessment released earlier this month highlighted the intelligence community's interest in domestic extremist international travel, not level. Okay, so now you see why the Capitol false flag insurrection happened. Now you're starting to see why the whole Trump presidency had to happen. That was the whole point of it, was to set us up. Even if you're not, and I've never been a Trump supporter like myself, we're going to be lumped in with these people. You remember when QAnon first came out, and, well, people that were doing this before saw it and were like, whoa. And it was like right after they announced that the military was being deployed online to combat misinformation and disinformation and all this. And then all of a sudden, boom, QAnon pops up. And we said, that's a psychological operation. And all these people that made fun of us for years, if you would even say things like New World Order or 9/11 was a false flag, chemtrails, whatever else that we've uncovered over the years. All of a sudden now that QAnon came out, they all of a sudden believed it. And they don't understand the inner workings of the whole thing like we do, so they weren't able to see through the facade. So what you had was just a bunch of people acting off of emotion, and they used it for entertainment. And every time QAnon would say, follow the white rabbit, and they would be like, oh, what's he going to tell us next? Instead of doing their own research, they all hopped on, what was it, TikTok or something else. And they were just getting all this QAnon information, and QAnon was the perfect psychological operation because it mixed the truth with lies. It told the truth all the way up to a point, and then it split off, and the real truth went this way, and the fake bullshit went this way. Because they admitted, oh yeah, New World Order, yeah, all this is going on, build global government, but they said Trump's trying to stop it. Trump's fighting for us. Not even close to being true at all whatsoever. And the whole time I had people even in my family that were like supporting QAnon and all this stuff and the Great Awakening and this and that. And I would try to tell them, like, hey, this is what's going on. And they'd be like, oh, no, I don't believe you. No, Trump's for the people. I'm like, I'm telling you, he's setting you up. And what happened after he lost the election? January 6th rolls around. What happened? Oh, come on down the Capitol. We're going to have a huge rally and we're going to do this. And come on down and I'll be with you the whole way. And then he went and he hid. And then whatever happened with the operatives and stuff. Then he comes out later and says he was appalled that people acted like this. He's a con man. It was easy to see. Previous DHS efforts to combat domestic terror have generated volcanic political opposition. Early in the Obama administration, DHS intelligence analyst Daryl Johnson wrote a paper warning about the growing far-right threat. Congressional Republicans were incensed, and Obama's then Homeland Security chief withdrew the report. That episode had a chilling effect at DHS, signaling that analysts scrutinize the threat at their own peril. Top DHS leaders now want to reverse that dynamic. In his confirmation hearing, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas called domestic terror one of the greatest threats that we face currently on our homeland. The discussions, which are not final, are part of DHS efforts to dramatically increase its work to prevent domestic terror. On January 7th, Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat from Mississippi, the chair of the House Committee on Homeland Security, called the TSA and the FBI to use the no-fly list to keep suspected, there's that word again, perpetrators of the January 6th attack from boarding planes. The week after January 6th, top FBI officials said the Bureau was actively looking at adding the names of Capitol attackers to the no-fly list. The week before the inauguration day, head of TSA, the agency, said the agency was working to ensure those who may pose a threat to our aviation sector undergo enhanced screening or are prevented from boarding an aircraft. His statement did not mention the no-fly list. According to the official who spoke to Politico, conversations about domestic extremism and the no-fly list aren't just limited to people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Oh, I see now. You see how we're all getting lumped in? Oh, it's not just limited to people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. And all the sheeple will go, bah, yay, yay. We love this idea because it's not me. It will be you. After they go through separate groups, eventually it will be you. You must guard your enemy, your political enemy, from oppression. Because if you don't, that oppression will eventually reach unto yourself. That is the truth. The threat from domestic terrorists has grown in recent years, and per the Center for Strategic and International Studies, white supremacists were responsible for 2/3 of all terror plots and attacks in 2020. That's a lie. But the Trump White House largely downplayed the threat from white supremacists as the president instead tweeted ceaselessly about Antifa. Trump National Counterterrorism Strategy 2018 document only mentioned the threat in 2 brief paragraphs. DHS officials who try to combat the problem under Trump told Politico last year that a barrage of crises within the administration hampered their ability to get much done. You see how they play the left-right game? You see how they do that? Now they could say, oh, all these people and these Trump people and this and that. I seen a comment the other day. Somebody said something about, well, the Great Reset and Agenda 2030. And this woman got on there and commented and said, oh, did your dad Trump tell you that? And the guy was like, nobody ever said anything about Trump. So the mindset is already lumping all of us in that category. Myself, never was a Trump supporter, ever. Never was a Biden supporter, Obama supporter, never. Never supported any puppet of the left-right paradigm because I understand that they both work together to achieve the same goal. And that goal is one world totalitarian socialist government. I would still be lumped in with all of this because that's the agenda. Because it's not the global war on terror, it's the global war on freedom. Elizabeth Newman, who worked domestic terror prevention at DHS under Trump, previously told Politico that National Security Council staff tried to work on the issue in an organized way, but without much progress. When you have chaos all around you, it's really hard to do process stuff, she said. What? Come on. Instead, the Trump administration stressed its concerns about far-left agitators. Trump tweeted that the plan to designate Antifa as a terrorist group, a move that would have been legally impossible. A state law enforcement official told Politico in the final months of Trump administration, DHS intelligence products overemphasized the threat from the left while underemphasizing the threat from the right. Yeah, this is how they play it. And we all get lumped in. Everybody. Anybody is now a suspected extremist. And right here, January 6th, far-right domestic extremists ransacked the Capitol building, a catastrophe that better intelligence could have prevented. Federal law enforcement officials are trying to figure out how to prevent future attacks. That's basically all it says. How to scrutinize domestic extremist travel in a more organized way and deliberate way. DHS was founded in the wake of 9/11 as part of efforts to prevent future terror attacks. And it just talks about whatever. Okay, so and down here just says something like that the challenge that they have is how to distinguish between people traveling to exercise their rights, constitutional rights by attending a protest, and those traveling to commit crimes. No. That's all just arbitrary stuff. We already know how all this works. Oh, and look at this part. DHS, it's founded in the wake of 9/11, whatever. Its components, including the TSA and Customs Border Protection, specialize in aviation security and already have broad access to Americans' travel information. Well, isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? So you can see over time how this beast has risen. We are now all being threatened by this. And this comes right on the heels of Domestic Terrorist Prevention Act of 2021 and gun control, because it's all part of the Great Reset. It's all part of their plan to make the world in their image. Moving on. Here's one for you. ATF has been working since November on new gun bans and confiscation policies. January 13, 2021. Oh, they've been working with since November. Huh. Now you see why all these, quote, shootings have started up again. ATF has been working with Biden since November on new gun bans and plans for mass confiscation ahead of Biden's inauguration. According to Ammo Land, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives have been working to undermine the Second Amendment for months, even before Joe Biden won office. ATF had already raised eyebrows for working to outlaw millions of pistols based on the AR-15 weapon system. The rule was quietly floated by the ATF in December that would outlaw millions of guns and turn gun owners into criminals. The ATF published a notice last Thursday that it intended to outlaw AR-15 pistol and similar firearms, and that existing weapons will have to be destroyed, turned over to authorities and owners to register. Let me explain something real quick. Not many people might know about this. The difference between rifles and pistols when it comes to AR-15 models. Rifles have a stock, collapsing stock, and a long barrel, like 16-inch barrel. Pistols, they look similar. They have the detachable magazine. They look the part, but they have either a brace, which goes around your arm, and you hold it in your hand. It has a shorter barrel, but it's weird because that brace, if it didn't have that brace and had a stock, it would be considered a short-barreled rifle. But since it has the brace, it's considered a pistol. Still fires exactly the same way. But it looks exactly like, if I remember before the end of the video, I'll show you examples of AR-15 rifles and AR-15 pistols. And we know the weapons will have to be destroyed because, well, we've been reading the UN Small Arms Control. Oh, he actually explains it here. AR-15 pistol uses an arm brace system to stabilize the firearm as it's being fired. The pistol needs this brace because the AR-15 pistol is essentially the same firearm as the AR-15 rifle, with the shoulder stock removed. There are as many as 4 million of these types of weapons in the U.S. On top of that, the ATF intends to impose a $200 tax per gun owner. Second Amendment supporters were furious over the proposed outlawing of millions of weapons and the registration by gun owners. Quote, GOA will rally the grassroots to fight these regulations, and if they eventually go into effect, we will commence immediate legal action to protect gun owners. Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President, Gun Owners of America, said in a statement. The controversy stems from how federal law distinguishes between short-barreled rifles and shotguns, both of which must be registered and require a $200 tax stamp, and pistols that do not require either. The key component is whether a firearm designed to be pressed against the shooter's shoulder. Since 2012, the ATF classified several guns with braces designed to strap into a shooter's forearm as pistols. Agency's Boston field office called the interpretation into question in August after sending a cease and desist letter to one manufacturer. Agency ordered a review in October following intervention from the White House. Only a week later, though, the agency scuttled the proposed rule. But this is only the start. With the Democrats preparing to rule in D.C., these things will continue. And it doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans. It doesn't matter. With articles like this, take what you need and leave the rest. And then it says, the ATF will continue to work to destroy the Second Amendment in this unlawful manner. Yes, that's what the purpose of the ATF is. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, that is what the purpose of the agency is. Because it's a New World Order agency. You know, it's the same one that burns children whenever they're trying to protect children. I still don't get that one. Just somehow they're allowed to do that with no kind of punishment, no kind of audit or anything like that, because, well, we had to, because crazy religious people. Also, it's the same agency that's allowed to snipe women when they're holding their babies in their hands in doorways. But it's okay because they're protecting the children, and people buy this stuff. Let's move on. This one was actually referenced to me by a subscriber of mine, and I think his name is TC802. I'm not 100% sure, but he watches all the time. TC, if you're listening, thank you very much for this. Thank you very much, because this is important. And I really hope this video don't get taken down, because this channel will be suspended for a week. And I'm pretty sure Austin from Ohio, my main channel is back up after being suspended for 2 weeks. So if anything, I'll test it on here to see if it'll get taken down. If not, then I'll upload it over there as well, because I'm probably going to be going back there, even though I have more people here, because I really want to keep my main channel. But I'll keep it light on there. But if I get taken down one more time, it's gone forever, and all my videos get taken down. This is Assembly Bill A416, the New York State Senate. It's for the state of New York. 2021-2022 legislative session. Relates to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to the public health. Okay. Let's see. It says who's here. Current committee, Assembly Health, Public Health Law, whatever. Relates to the removal of cases, we already read that. Okay, here's the text. Let me try to enlarge this so you guys can read it. Pre-filed on January 6, 2021. Isn't that a coincidence? And if you started watching this, like as soon as I put this video up, sometimes you have to X and then go back into the video so you can select the quality and select the highest quality you can. I upload in 720p, but for some reason, the quality only goes to 480, but you still should be able to read this. If not, I will leave a link to it. An act to amend public health law in relation to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to public health. The people of the state of New York, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, and they always make it seem like the people are the ones who want this. No. Okay, public health law is amended by adding the new section whatever. Removal and detention of cases, contacts, and carriers who are or may be a danger to public health. Also, other orders. Okay. Detention, as in indefinite detention, which was made law under National Defense Authorization Act, which gets renewed every single year. This is in reference to the emergency relief centers, or FEMA camps. And anybody who is or may be a danger to public health. Other orders. The provisions of this section shall be utilized in the event that the governor declares a state of health emergency due to an epidemic of any communicable disease. So it's already, when it goes through, it's already in because there's already a declaration of emergency. Upon determining by clear and convincing evidence that the health of others is or may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier, or suspected case, contact, or carrier of a contagious disease that, in the opinion of the governor, after consultation with the commissioner, may pose an imminent and significant threat to the public health resulting in severe morbidity or high mortality, the governor or his or her delegee, including but not limited to the commissioner or the heads of local health departments, may order the removal and or detention of such a person or group of such persons by issuing a single order, identifying such persons either by name, reasonably specific description of the individuals or group being detained. Such person or group of persons shall be detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility or premises designated by the governor or his or her delegee and complying with the subdivision 5, this section. A person or group removed and detained by order of the governor or his or her delegee pursuant to subdivision 2, whatever. And there's 167 more lines, but we don't even really have to go through that much to see what this is. I wanted to highlight this part here. A person or group removed or detained by order of the governor. No. Okay, yeah. A person or of a group of persons by issuing a single order, identifying such persons either by name or by reasonably specific description of the individuals or group being detained, or group of persons shall be detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility or premises designated by the governor or his cronies. And what do you think another appropriate facility would be by the opinion of the governor? We already know about the FEMA camps. Oh, my cigarette went out. Sorry, guys. So, let me give you an example here. Let's say that it's the 4th of July. You know, Independence Day. The day that we're supposed to celebrate freedom in this country. Let's say you have a small get-together. Let's say your neighbor is a mindless sheeple who watches TV and believes everything they say. And he sees 2 or more cars in your driveway. So he calls the authorities. They show up and they remove the entire group, because it says group in here, and they take you to an appropriate facility because you're posing risk to public health. And up here it said something about, where's it at? This part here, they try to trick people. So they can remove you upon determining by clear and convincing evidence that the health of others is or may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier, or suspected case, contact, or carrier of a contagious disease, that in the opinion of the governor, after consultation with the commissioner, may pose an imminent and significant threat to public health, resulting in severe mobility, blah, 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 blah. Words like may and opinion of the governor. So all they have to do is say, oh, you're posing a risk to public health. Oh, what's your clear and convincing evidence? Oh, well, we don't have any, but it's the opinion of the governor. So we're going to go ahead and remove you. We already know how all of this works. So if you're in New York, you better watch out. Because they're coming for you. And it's not just New York. We have it here in Ohio, too. I read that one a couple videos ago, actually, in Ohio, where we had they were talking, a newspaper, the Ohio Star was talking about FEMA camps, and they actually used the word FEMA camps. And they asked the governor about it, and he said he declined to comment and all this stuff. And they even said that they may remove kids from school. And even told parents to pack your kids an overnight bag in case they get transferred to one of these facilities. But we all know what's really going on for real. Let's move on. Here's another one that has to do with gun confiscation. 2021. Gun owners beware. Gun confiscated in 2021. If you have an AR-15 or like type of guns, you should dismantle them. In other words, what you need to do is separate the upper from the lower and store them away from each other. State of California, by separating them, cops with a warrant want to look at it, and all they're going to find is a bunch of gun parts. Storing them that way allows you to keep your gun legally at your home. The reason is because it's not a functional firearm. Yes, that would be a way around the system. Yes. If you dismantle your weapon, it's no longer considered a weapon because it's not a functioning firearm. Yes, you could do that. There might be a time when cops from Department of Justice knock on your door. They might ask you if you have firearms while they don't have any legal warrants. Keep this in mind. Do not answer them. Do not let them in. If you happen to answer them and your answer will be no, you don't have any firearms. And there's a picture of a dismantled upper receiver for an AR-15 type rifle. It's a lot easier than it looks. Just so you know, what those cops do is called knock and talk. And they don't do it just for this, they do it for a lot of other things. They knock and they want to talk to you and ask questions. They want to ask you if they can come in and also if they can look at your firearms. The reason they want to ask you questions is because they're trying to gather evidence against you. Therefore, never answer any questions that may get you into trouble. The only answer is no. Have a nice day, and then close the door. If they show up with a legal warrant, you have no choice but to let them in. You also have to let them look for the things that they want to look for. From now on, in order to prepare for such an event like that, my advice is you don't store anything illegal in your house. For AR-15 or those types of guns, take them apart and store them apart. If you're going to take them out of the state for hunting, take your rifle, put it together. Once you leave the state, take it apart before you come back in the state. This is out in California. It's pretty much illegal to own any weapons. But this is just like a way to get around it if you don't want to take an alternative route that a lot of other people may want to take. That's the only way I know of that you can avoid getting arrested for these types of guns. So first and foremost, take the guns apart. Second of all, if DOJ or any other law enforcement knocks the door, don't answer the door. If you happen to answer the door unwittingly with these cops, the answer is no. Do not go outside to talk to them. Tell them you're not answering any questions. Have a nice day. If you get arrested, shut up, hire an attorney, don't do anything, don't talk to cops, this and that. What others said about gun confiscation on social media. Thermal Burns said, as a Marine myself, the day I ever get ordered to disarm the American people is the day I become a deserter. I am 100% confident that 75% of my unit will do the same as well. Yeah. This guy is a good man. Problem is, they know that a lot of the military would not stand for this. And I always try to explain this to people because they're like, oh, if push came to shove, our military would never do this or that. Uh, a lot of them would, but also a lot of them would not. And it doesn't even matter because under the United Nations, they can use the militaries of other member nations or all member nations in one member nation or non-member nation. So it doesn't matter at all. This guy said, "Too late. Civilians are killed for refusal when labeled extremists. Our founders were also labeled extremists." Yes, absolutely. This person said, "The Constitution clearly states that the right to keep and bear arms is to protect U.S. citizens against our own government. Any act of confiscation is an act of treason against the U.S. Constitution and therefore a valid reason to use deadly force against those acting for the government." Case closed. I happen to agree with this guy. Eric Wilkes, "A true patriot will not ask for our guns." Yep. This guy is a moron. Counter gun confiscation by not voting Democrat. Doesn't matter who you vote. This guy said the Clinton administration, 1994, Waco, Texas, burned 30 children alive for gun confiscation. Yes. This guy said gun confiscation is already happening in the U.S. Red flag laws. Yes. Absolutely. I just wanted to bring that up just to show how to get around certain things, and if you live in California or if this becomes law nationwide, if you would like to do this. If you take your gun apart, it's no longer a gun. So, and if you just so happen to lose a piece, even if they put it back together, not a functioning firearm, so they can't do anything about it. Let's move on. I found this rather interesting, and this is from Brookings Institute. And this is called The Brave New World of 2021. And this was January 21, 2021. To kick off the Future Development blog in 2021, we present the second piece in a 4-part series on how 2021 will be different from 2020. See first, third, and fourth installments. In the novel Brave New World, Aldous Huxley writes, "Their world didn't allow them to be sane, virtuous, happy. They were not conditioned to obey. What with all diseases, uncertainties, and poverty, they were forced to feel strongly. So how could they be stable?" He goes on to describe a world where peace and stability are achieved only through building a system in which human beings all behave the same, organized by an all-powerful nanny-state. That's because he was not writing fiction. He was writing nonfiction, reality. Enter 2021. Funny how this guy compares that to what we're going through now, because that's exactly what it is. We will have our fill of diseases, uncertainties, and poverty in every country. We almost certainly need collaborative action to avoid traps on the path to sustainable development, but thankfully we do not have to make all humans behave the same way to achieve them. Yeah, they do, and they are. This guy's calling for world government, but not the world government where they don't make all people behave the same way. That doesn't sound like anything I've ever read. Emerging market and developing economies are entering 2021 with a high level and steep rise in new C-19 cases per week. In summer 2020, EMDEs had appeared to reach a plateau of around 200,000 new cases per week, a level that was stable for around 4 months until November. Since then, the number of new cases per week has started to accelerate, has already roughly doubled, and shows no signs of stabilizing at a new plateau yet. You could read that word, COVAX, International Consortium, making donor-funded Vs available to developing countries. Hopes to start its first shipments in the first quarter of 2021 and has set itself a target of delivering 2 billion doses during 2021. But it's still far short of being financially and technically able to meet this goal. On the disease front, 2021 may be more hopeful for many people in EMDEs who can start to see endgame. but will almost certainly be far worse in terms of outcomes, deaths, hospitalizations, and number of total cases compared to 2020. Looking to the future, uncertainties. Looking into the future is particularly difficult for 2021. For EMDEs, there is a range of commodity price uncertainties that are of first order import for some countries and regions. The slowest rebounds in economic growth in 2021 are projected right now to be in commodity exporting regions like Latin America, Middle East, and Sub-Saharan Africa. These countries could surprise if commodity prices were to strengthen. I just thought this was interesting because it's by the Brookings Institute, and they're talking about the Brave New World and comparing 2021 to Brave New World. Hello? When you gonna wake up? Are you ever going to wake up? Do I have to sit here and talk all day, slap you upside the head? Moving on. Okay, I came across this. This is definitely probably going to get this video taken down. If it does, it's okay, because I will be back on Austin from Ohio. And if it does, I will stay away from stuff like this. But this is actual documentation on biocompatible near-infrared quantum dots delivered to the skin by microneedle patches, Record V. On the record, V prevent disease, save lives. However, lack of standardized immunization record keeping makes it challenging to track V coverage across the world. McHugh et al. Developed dissolvable microneedles that deliver patterns of near-infrared light-emitting microparticles to the skin. Particle patterns are invisible to the eye, but can be imaged using modified smartphones. By co-delivering a V, a pattern of particles in the skin could serve as an on-person V record. Patterns were detected 9 months after intradermal delivery of microparticles in rats. Co-delivery of inactivated poliovirus led to protective antibody production. Discrete microneedle delivered microparticle patterns in porcine and pigmented human skin were identifiable using semi-automated machine learning. These results demonstrate proof of concept intradermal on-person V record keeping. That just described exactly what happened in Nazi Germany with the barcodes, or with the numbers. This is technology that is on your skin. Abstract. Accurate medical record keeping is a major challenge in many low-resource settings where well-maintained centralized databases do not exist, contributing to 1.5 million V preventable deaths annually. Here we present an approach to encode medical history on a patient using the spatial distribution of biocompatible near-infrared quantum dots, QDs. In the dermis, QDs are invisible to the naked eye, yet detectable when exposed to NIR light. QDs with a copper indium selenide core and aluminum doped zinc sulfide shell were tuned to emit the NIR spectrum by controlling stoichiometry and shelling time. Formulation showing the greatest resistance to photobleaching after simulated sunlight exposure, 5-year equivalence, through pigmented skin was encapsulated by microparticles for use in vivo. In parallel, microneedle geometry was optimized in silico and validated ex vivo using porcine and synthetic human skin. QD containing microparticles were then embedded in dissolvable microneedles and administered to rats with or without a V. Longitudinal in vivo imaging using a smartphone adapted to detect NIR light demonstrated that microneedle delivered QD patterns remained bright and could be accurately identified using a machine learning algorithm 9 months after application. In addition, co-delivery with inactivated poliovirus V produced neutralizing antibody titers above the threshold considered protective. These findings suggest that intradermal QDs can be used to reliably encode information and can be delivered with a V. And can be delivered with a V, which may be particularly valuable in the developing world and can open up new avenues for decentralized data storage and biosensing. So all of this, and it says right here, quantum dots can be used to reliably encode information and can be delivered with a V. What do you think everybody's getting right now? This is only one example of the technology that they are putting on human beings or in. This is hardcore real evidence. This is documentation. And this just talks about crap, as in like Vs are exceptionally safe and effective, saving estimated 2 million to 3 million lives annually. 1.5 million V preventable deaths occur due to under V. Whatever. And they say like, oh, these areas often lack accurate medical record-keeping systems and rely on V campaigns to distribute Vs. However, investigations in response to recent outbreak of measles and mumps in the United States, Australia, and Italy have highlighted that poor immunization record-keeping is not unique to developing nations. Paper V cards or certificates are the most widely used records in the developing world, but are subject to error and possessed by only 60% of households in low and middle income countries. Without accurate V records, healthcare professionals lack the data needed to make informed decisions about administering Vs. The passport. This will be your passport. And many people who got this thing, they don't even know it yet. They don't even know it yet. This is insane, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this because the video might get taken down. I will leave the link to this in the description. This is actual documentation of the quantum dot microneedle to be administered with the current, I'm not even going to say it. I wanted to bring this up to show that there's an example of it. There's your images. I wanted to bring this up to show that there is real documentation for this stuff. But of course, nobody believes it, even if you show them this. And I will leave a link in the description once the video is uploaded, because I'm on a phone and I can't do it like all at the same time. But look when they had this. Look at the date. Just 2 months after Event 201, and right before this whole thing took off. They were already ready for it. This will get this video taken down, I'm sure. then I'll be suspended for a week on here, but I will be at Austin from Ohio, so don't even have to worry about that. But yes, look, you can go to figures and data, info and metrics, e-letters. When you try to tell somebody about this, they're like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No. This is actual documentation. So, oh man, it just gets crazy. It gets insane. Let's move on. Okay, now this is the last thing that I wanted to read to you guys for today. And this is the goals of the Illuminati and the New World Order. Let's try to bring it up a little bit. Whether you believe in the Illuminati or not has become irrelevant due to the current monsoon of proof as to their existence and of the existence of the New World Order, which is not a group as much as it is a concept. A belief system and a sinister plot rolled into one. Yeah. If you don't believe by now, it doesn't even matter. I mean, it didn't matter before, but especially now that these people are, like, not hidden anymore. It is important to not only read and acknowledge the stated goals of the Illuminati for the furtherance of the NWO, but to recognize them being implemented in the world around you. Then to wake others up to the changes happening in the world, which you could be sure are all for the worse. In later posts, I will go through each goal individually and in more detail, giving examples to make it easier to approach these issues and discuss them with the incredulous sheeple. And here's a sign, we've all seen it. I'm not going to read what's on there, but you can. The number one goal of the Illuminati is to establish a new world order, a world government, holding executive power over the four corners of the earth by means of centralized banking, law, courts, and religion. Eventually, even Christianity will devolve under the NWO. As the stated plan is to unite the religions of the world into a single Luciferian faith. See the plan for one world religion. In order for the New World Order to be accepted by a diverse population of the world, a policy of total destruction of national identity and pride must be implemented. Only when the Illuminati have wrecked our sense of national community will people be open to assimilation into the NWO. See the curse of multiculturalism. As stated above, alongside the one world government and law system, the religions of the world are to be systematically undermined in order to coagulate them into a single Luciferian doctrine. This is particularly important in the case of Christianity, as the Illuminati are particularly involved in the affairs of the Western Christian nations. Oh yes, they are. With the exception of the computer science and service industries, the end of industrialization in all first world countries resulting in the post-industrial zero-growth society. By the establishment of trade agreements, successful countries can outsource their industries to low-wage, low-quality workforces in developing countries that the Illuminati already has under the thumb. This leads to mass unemployment, depression, and addiction problems in the first world and all of the societal problems inherent in that. Absolute and total control of individual will through the means of mind control, authoritarian pressure to conform, predictive programming, and technocracy. The extent and sophistication of surveillance methods will leave the human race almost totally neutered in their opinions and ability to resist the NWO. In the words of John D. Rockefeller, a major Illuminati player and New World Order proponent, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want the nation of workers. To encourage the use of currently illegal drugs by ensuring a plentiful supply and eventually legalization of drugs to further demoralize populations. This will be done alongside the normalization and proliferation of pornography, to the point that extreme forms of sex and sex for nothing more than gratification becomes commonplace. You think we're there? Oh yeah, I'd say. Numerous sexual revolutions, i.e. feminism, homosexuality, and polygamy, will eventually destroy the aspects of family life that the human race was built on. Depopulation. Mass depopulation of populous areas on a scale almost unbelievable, following the blueprint laid out by the Pol Pot regime in Cambodia. You guys should look into that. The proposed level that the world population would be lowered 500 million, or about 1/3 the current population of China. See depopulation, the most open secret, whatever. Okay, now number 8. In a similar manner, to point 4, scientific endeavor will be devalued and undermined, with the exceptions of innovations that are or could be beneficial to the Illuminati themselves. In line for particular attention is the study of cheap free energy, or peaceful nuclear experimentation. Should a free energy source be found, the one world concept of limited resources will become obsolete, and the extortionate prices currently laid on natural fuel would have to be lowered. Now you know why that guy was killed for the water-powered car. Oh yes, they're doing it. Hardcore doing it. And not in the good way. Manufacture and manipulation of crises that would bring about mass depopulation of the regions of the world not already affected by the first round of genocide mentioned in point 7. This will be achieved by the inspiration of wars between first world countries and by cultivating disease and starvation in the third world countries. The use of unemployment and cultural rebellion to demoralize the Western world to the point of apathy by encouraging outsourcing jobs overseas. The indigenous workforce will be devastated, turn to drugs and alcohol, and become more dependent on the state. The children will be introduced to a form of non-political rebellion. The wear done stuff, say rude words, be promiscuous form of rebellion. By promoted celebrity personalities, causing only the breakdown of the family unit. Does that sound like the United States? Because it sure does to me, guys, and this is terrible. They're really getting it done. It's insane. Removal of personal choice and destiny by the consecration and management of crises, which are then handled by the authorities. Eradicating the need for community cohesion. Through the constant belittlement of self-empowerment, the government will become father, mother, giver, and taker, but mostly taker. Dissemination of cultural norms by the promotion either by propaganda or subliminal prompts. Cartoons, popular media, celebrity opinion of alternative lifestyles may seem contradictory to the idea of one world religion. But the Illuminati are patient, if nothing else, and understand that if the concept of religion is to be demolished, it must first be fractured into splinters. Promotion of the State of Israel, continuing support of Israeli foreign policy, fermenting hatred for Western nations among the Islamic nations, and eventually lighting the touch paper of World War III. This will be done by encouraging faith in the Christian fundamentalist movement worldwide that has been instructed to spread the message of the chosen people. Being set up from all angles. Empowerment of anti-Western groups called to the point of creating a purpose-built anti-Western nation. This is done secretively by the sponsoring via international intelligence agencies, fanatical religious groups such as Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, and maneuvering them into positions of power and influence. This will coincide with new examples of cultist atrocity and escapism, keeping people in a permanent fog of information and opinion. In parallel to point 14, the notion of religious freedom will be transported and promoted worldwide, as to undermine all existing religions and fool members of those religions into questioning their faith, furthering the breakup of society and the moral breakdown of humanity. Do not ever doubt If you have doubt in your mind, it's hard, but get it out. God is real. Very real. 1,000,000% real. Total collapse of first world economies, which will lead, in turn, collapse of third world economies, which are unquestionably propped up by the former. The economic turmoil will engender total political chaos and fighting, whereupon the only solution will be the amalgamation of world governments into the world government. Why do you think the United States is the dollar is the world reserve currency? Because when the dollar goes down, the whole world goes down. Then they can issue their one world global cryptocurrency system using body activity data. Or WO 2020-060606. Control of domestic and foreign policies of the United States. Even with the U.S. economy in tatters, they are still a world superpower, commanding significant authority on the world stage. If the Illuminati control the states, they also control the assets of those countries indebted to the states, i.e. every country you have heard of in the news lately. Support of supranational institutions, such as the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, that are not governed by any higher authority or answerable to any nation's population, thereby undermining any authority that national and local governing bodies have. When people eventually become accustomed to referring to the mandates of distant authority, these national lawmakers and enforcers will become collected under the yoke of new boss, i.e. the UN. Infiltration and subversion of all governments worldwide using the engines of political influence to the detriment of national sovereignty and identity. To create, use, and exploit terrorist organizations worldwide in order to engender both fear and hatred in the Western populations that the terror is aimed at. Yeah, why do you think the world hates us? It's a manufactured hate. The control of education in the Western world will be complete deflation of educational goals. This will be achieved by undermining the curriculum, overestimation of student achievement, and destruction of goal-oriented endeavor. Outcome-based education or everyone wins sports activity. Yeah, like, the participation trophies, things like that. These are only the overriding goals of the Illuminati. Surely there are many more individual goals held by individual members, such as undermine the Federal Reserve, hide the fact of peak oil until it's too late, or complete and total genocide, but these are boxes the Illuminati members swear by. Oh, geez. These comments and these people. So, yes. This is exactly what is going on and has been going on for some time. And it is fascinating, scary, and, well, expected. But I'll leave it at that. And we'll continue on Friday. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.